to be connecting with all of you, and hopefully for you to connect with us, and to hear what's going on around the world, so that we can compare stories and see what are the commonalities and what are the regional variations. So we'll do what we've done on previous calls, and just go around and get all of you to give your report for the last few months. And thank you those who've sent the printed or the hard copy versions already, albeit electronically. I will distribute them with the summary afterwards, and I'll take some notes and put round the summary afterwards. Lauren, thank you firstly for setting up this call, and Lauren will be sending us or putting up a recording on the website to help us or for us to listen to afterwards if we want to. I noticed that Hans has just joined us, Hans Fielder. Hans, you're very welcome, and you're calling from Austria. So welcome. Can we start? Let's start with Ishmael. Could you go through your report, just summarise that for everyone on the call, please? Ishmael, are you there?
I'm here. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you could talk the rest of the council through your report, please.
You ask me to refer to the situation in Argentina, because I don't hear very well.
Yeah, if you could, please. If you could just tell us what's going on in Argentina at the moment in terms of the career industry.
Well, unfortunately, the situation in Argentina is very renowned right now. It's not the best one. In fact, it's one of the worst we went through. During last year, we passed, which I and some colleagues mean was the worst situation in the last 10 years. Business environment is not clear, as I say in my information. Most of all complicated by the very severe foreign currencies business restrictions. The government doesn't allow any kind of buying or selling anything in hard currencies, which is the only way you can do in most of the world. Mm-hmm. So it produces all kinds of inconveniences. For instance, we have automotive factories which cannot deliver their cars because they have lack of parts. So most of the big factories are devoted right now to produce just parts, not the whole product they can do, just parts which can be delivered without other insumes what we need from other countries. As a consequence, we see very severe restricted relations with our usual and for many years customer countries. For instance, we used to be the first export in meat. The Argentina meat was one of the best of the world. Well, can you imagine, we lost in the last 10 years 11 million cattle heads. So that is almost unbelievable. Hello, this is Hans.
Yeah.
Ishmael is just talking us through what's going on in Argentina careers-wise at the moment.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's say that all kinds of operations, all kinds of businesses are severely restricted. Other consequence was that the most important companies in very renowned marks, for instance, luxury marks like Prada or in cars, let's say the best cars in the world, or luxury watches, all of them closed their business offices in Argentina, waiting for better times. So I can say without doubt that our actual situation is just to keep on the lower level of expenses, trying to maintain the best quality level we can, and delivering very good quality services, because it is the key for that when the situation will change, to get the jump to a much better business like you have today. So, for instance, in my place, I used to have about 6 or 7 international companies clients. Right now, I have just one, Petrobras.
Right.
What is working pretty well is the mouth-to-mouth recommendation, which is people satisfied, talk to other one to come. And most of their programs are individual, not group programs. And well, coaching is as always. The good news is we see a small light in the end of the tunnel, that this year, 2015, is an election polls year. So we have scheduled elections for October this year. So in December this year, we'll have a new government. And that's it.
Okay.
Right. So we are optimistic for 2016, but I think that normally, as we call, or more usual climate on business as usual, will come not before 2017. That's it.
Right. Okay. And we'll look forward to hearing how things progress, and hopefully get better during the latter part of this year and into 2016. Thank you, Ishmael. Ishmael has sent through a written report, so I'll distribute that to you all with the summary of the notes. Could we go across to Dave Upton in the UK, please? USA, please, Dave. So what's happening in the USA at the moment in the careers world? Are you there, Dave? We can't hear you.
I had myself on mute so that.
Great. Okay, thank you.
All right. Hope it's okay now.
Yeah. Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
So things, as I'm sure everyone has sort of followed this on a global basis. Economy-wise, things continue to improve. Just to give you some perspective, I mean, the current unemployment rate here in the States is running at around 5.4%, which is compared to, let's say, 6.2, which was roughly a year ago this time. And so it continues to fall. I would say from an industry point of view right now, again, no surprise, healthcare certainly leads the pack in terms of where there seem to be opportunities. Followed closely, followed certainly by professional and business services. The U.S. economy is very service-driven, as we all know, so probably no surprise there. Retail has started to make a comeback here, and I think that's reflective of the improving economy as well. And also, interestingly enough, I've noticed in the last few months, not-for-profits are offering a fair amount of opportunity for folks as well, and I think that's also to some degree reflective of the economy, because as it gets better, presumably people are more in a more of a state of mind to maybe give. So that's probably a good thing. I'll also share, we do here at ExecuNet, one of the things that we do to kind of monitor the marketplace is we have a thing which we call our Recruiters Confidence Index. This is a survey that we do every month or so with the recruiting community that we work with. And when we just got the results back here from last month. I haven't got them for May yet, but we do for April. And it kind of reflects a little bit of what I was talking about relative to the employment thing. Over 60% of the recruiters that we surveyed were either strongly or very strongly confident with regard to the executive job market continuing to improve over the next 6 months, which is one of the questions that we asked them. And secondarily, when we asked them a little earlier this year to sort of project for us kind of how they thought their year was going to be, and they came back and said that they were anticipating roughly a 13% increase in assignments this year versus last year. Let's see, what else did they say? And in addition to that, the recruiters reported that the number of companies that plan to add new executive level positions, and for those on the call, that's the marketplace in which Execunet operates, is at the executive level, that they were going to add, let's see here, about 1 in 5 of them, or roughly 20%, said they expected to add new executive level positions within the next 6 months. So that's from the recruiting side, third-party recruiters as well as company recruiters.
What's your thoughts, Dave? I know you operate in the executive market, but will that be translated at lower levels?
I don't know. Maybe others on the call might have a feeling about that. The answer is yes, but I'm not too sure that it would translate to the same level. For example, I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the unemployment rate at the executive level is obviously significantly lower than the national average that I mentioned of 5.4%. I think at the executive level it probably is running closer to, at this point I would say probably around 3% or maybe even slightly below that. And you know, again, when you've got an industry such as healthcare, which certainly has opportunities both from the lower level as well as to the upper level, in terms of the other types of positions such as factory work and things like that, again, we tend to be more of a service-driven economy than we do a manufacturing-driven economy, so that comes along at a slower pace.
Okay. Anything else that you want to report from the USA in terms perhaps of how career coaches are winning business, or the career industry in general?
Well, we are certainly seeing, again, as the economy improves, a lot of our members are reporting to us that they are getting more interviews, not surprising, and certainly always good to hear. Where we have also seen a significant increase in on the coaching side, particularly at the very senior levels. I'm talking 200,000 and above, because these tend to be folks who really, if they're in the process of making a change, whether because they want to or they have to, it is certainly not a process with which they are particularly familiar. And if they haven't been active in the job market in, let's say, even the last 5 to 6 years, the process has changed a great deal, particularly in terms of how they have to present themselves. I would say right now there's a terrific emphasis on the coaching front and so forth, in terms of trying to, I guess the buzzword I would use is helping people to brand themselves. It's another way of saying, how do I market myself in 2015 versus how I may have tried to market myself in even just the year 2000. And a lot of that, I think, has to do with technology, because a lot of interviews are being done via Skype, and when people are responding to things electronically, certainly what the marketing materials that you might use are certainly a lot more attention-grabbing than the traditional 2-page chronological resume. Right.
Okay. So it'll be interesting to know from other people, how does that pan out in your regions as well. I think certainly here in the UK, I'm seeing a greater reliance on technology, and perhaps not Skype interviews to the extent that you're reporting there, but they're certainly becoming more common. So, Dave, can we move on now, or was there anything else that you wanted to add?
No, I think that's all I had on the top of my head.
Awesome, thank you very much. Let's come across into Europe, and Hans, can we come to you in Austria and get your report, please?
Yes, you can. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, yeah. Very well.
I have written it down, so I will send it to Dave later. And
thank you.
Yeah. So, what is happening in our country, in the economy, politically, and in the labor market? There's a big disconnect of Austrian and German economy that was quite different in the past. They were moving on at the same pace, and now Austria is lagging behind. Unemployment is continually rising, and the growth is under EU average in Austria now, and an ever-growing number of now more than 400,000 people are looking for a job. That is the highest amount reported after the war. 400,000 looking for a job, and the workforce is 3.5 million.
Wow.
There's a big bank scandal. I don't know whether you have heard of it. There's called the Hypo Alpe Adria scandal, with probably more than 50 billion euros lost, and the debt being transferred, remaining to be paid by the taxpayer. 15,000 billion when you have a state annual. The state spends about 70 million annually, so this is quite a big amount.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and this is now being under investigation by a parliamentary commission. Usually the outcome is 0, and nobody expects anything else this time. And there's a big setback here in Austria because of the war of Russia and the Ukraine. You know that more than 5,000 people have been killed so far, although politicians do not tend to name it a war.
Mm-hmm.
And because of the sanctions, Austria is particularly hit, particularly in banking and some other industries. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's what's going on.
Yeah, and how is the career industry responding to it, career professionals independently and working within organizations?
Well, I cannot really answer the question. When we come to the other questions, you may see why, because I don't have the whole picture. The career industry, what you would call the career industry, is so segmented that I could say something, but I this would not be really. I know certain things, but I cannot. I don't have a full picture. There's at least 4 segments I will talk about later.
Okay. Yeah.
But I don't know what's going on there. You are all are not connected.
Okay, we'll come on and have a more open discussion about what's happening in the career sectors later on. Perhaps we could go across then to Claire in the UK. Claire from the CDI. Is with us, Claire?
I am. Yes, I'm still here.
Fantastic.
Yeah, but I've sent through quite a lengthy report, which you'll be pleased to know I'm not going to go through word for word.
No, but thank you for the report.
You can all read at your leisure, and I'm happy to answer any emails on the subject. But just, I suppose, the highlight points from our point of view is that we have a UK Register of Career Development Professionals, and when we last met, I mentioned that we were hoping to be able to accept ICCI certificated practitioners and fellows onto the register, and I'm pleased to report that we've agreed that we can now do so. So that's been advertised far and wide. So that means anybody that's a fellow or a practitioner can join our register if they wish to, have use of our logo and various benefits. So I'm happy to talk about that further if anybody needs to know. And as of last month, our chief exec and Jutta have signed a CDI and ICCI strategic alliance. So that's good news, and that'll help us both sides to promote the relevant parts of the sector. And next week we're launching our career progression pathway, and that has a branch all to itself for career coaches and talent managers, and shows the routeways, the qualifications, the functions that those practitioners perform. So hopefully that will help to explain that part of the sector to members of the public, but also to encourage other practitioners that work in other parts of the career development world to consider moving into the career coaching and talent management areas if they wish to. So I suppose moving on to the economy and politics and everything else, we've had an increase of people on 0 hours contracts. So we've got about 700,000 people on those. The employment rate's the highest it's been since 1971, which is good news. And employers are forecasting pay rises, and there's demands increasing for professional skills and managerial staff. So, having had the recession of a few years ago, things are beginning to pick up. Similar to what our colleague was saying about how things are in the States. We've also had a general election, so we've now got a Conservative majority government, which was perhaps a surprise to a lot of people in this country who we expected to have yet another coalition government, but we've got a majority government. So prior to the elections last week, we produced a manifesto of things that we would like to see happening in career guidance and coaching for adults. And that manifesto was used with all the main political parties, and will now, in a slightly different form, be used further with the new government. So we've set out a series of recommendations as to what we'd like the government to support. And again, I'll not go through all of those in detail, but they're listed in the report. And then, I suppose, finally, what's happening in the career coaching profession. I had a word with John Lees, who was able to give me a bit more of an update than I knew myself. So he was telling me that career provision for adults is continuing to be a bit patchy, but there's generally wider range of provision than there was 10 years ago. And that we've now seen a number of professionals who were formerly employed in the public sector setting up as private career coaches. He also told me that outplacement continues to be fragmented with a small number of small providers and a small handful of national ones. And he also said that a lot of people who once worked in the recruitment sector are now working in the private career coaching sector. So again, sort of, a bit of a mix there. Things are picking up generally, but people are sort of moving around from one part of the sector to another. And then finally, career coaching organisations, where employers are providing career development for their own employees, then they're tending to work on helping employees surface their hidden talents and to align the opportunities with their actual career interests, and making more visible the types of career journeys they can make, so how to move across functions. So without being too definitive about career paths, but as jobs and opportunities become available. And as I mentioned in the last report, I think there's more work being done with older workers, because we've got an increasingly ageing sort of population. So helping older workers to look at life and career planning. So that's probably all I want to say. I could go on at length about any of this, but as I say, you've got the written report, and I'm more than happy to answer questions either now or by email from colleagues who might want to know a bit more about any of that.
Super. Thanks very much for that, Claire. And just picking up on the strategic alliance, that is a big move forward from ICCI's point of view, as well as from the CDI point of view. And being a member of both organisations, I'm very delighted personally. But it does. I just wanted to mention, in terms of the CDI's training, a lot of which happens by webinar, that is open to ICCI certificates now.
Yeah, free of charge to anybody on the register, and all the webinars. So yes.
Yeah. So just so that those of you in different parts of the globe are aware, for you and colleagues who are ICCI members and certified, they do have access to the CDI's training, and CDI run quite a lot of training. So these are the sort of alliances that I think, as an organisation, ICCI very much welcomes, and hopefully the career organisations within different territories welcome. So I'm curious to know what your views are on that, everybody, and also what your thoughts are, and to pick up on Claire's report on what's happening in the UK within the career profession, what's happening in your part of the world. And perhaps I'll just go to Hans first, because you said that you had some things to say on that.
Okay. You mean what is happening in the career profession?
In the career profession, yeah. Claire was describing sort of how things are a bit fragmented, sort of in the independent sector in the UK, and how there's a focus on some of the older workers as well, amongst other things.
Well, I would say career coaching is not regarded as a profession in Austria. Very few people make a living of coaching alone, although there are thousands of coaches around. And training and vocational counseling might rather be regarded as professions here. There's a certification of companies has started now a few years ago by an organization. You will find this that is close to the government. You will find this in my report. And that might be interesting for Utah as well. And 30 organizations have been certified so far, but most of these organizations are in vocational counseling guidance for younger people. And what did I write? As I said, the coaching market is very, very segmented. There is the outplacement market. It's one organization, placement group, is a member of. This is the ACF. That is a chapter of the Association of Career Firms. This is three companies in outplacement. This is the private outplacement, international outplacement sector, and then there is a lot of coaches and new companies that are only present in Austria, and they do a lot of private outplacement. And then there's the public outplacement. And besides all this, you have a lot of private career coaches that are more or less individuals and not very much organized, as I see them. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Hans.
That much for the time being.
Okay. And Dave and Ishmael, anything to add from your parts of the world?
Unfortunately, the careers, as Hans was saying, career coaching is never seen here like an industry or a professional activity. Even when we have right now, or maybe 1.5 years ago, began the first university to teach coaching and this kind of subject as a post-degree, which is the first really professional achievement we have. As I said in my report, And maybe, as Hans said before, I don't have the complete picture to talk about the other angles of this activity, but I think that right now professional associations are almost sleeping or doing nothing. I think this is a consequence of the situation, with very poor activities, and as I mentioned also, with many people getting inside without being professionals, for instance, hiring firms which suffered a very important diminution on their business, began to offer in the market most cheaper programs which are sort of coaching, sort of placement, and well, the companies which are looking for price are good customer for them. So professionally, I think that we cannot mention anything which is very important here. The only thing which must be mentioned is also mentioned in my report is that the biggest companies open their own offices here in Argentina. For instance, Lee H. Harrison, Wright, also DBM. So the companies which used to be their representatives were forced to abandon that and were pushed to look for some international associations to join, for instance, Career Partners International, Arbora, or others, which is in the beginning a very good notice because this news is that they enter not only on the regulations of their own firms, but also under the uses and customs for each one of their association. On any one are very, very professionals. Many years ago, I was part of Career Partners International. Right now, I'm really very proud of being part of Arbora, and all of them sustain and respect very high standards. So I think before or later, it's going to be important and will bring some good consequences to the professionalism. But for the time being, I'm sorry, I cannot see nothing out of that. Okay,
that's great. So, well, thank you for that update, Ishmael. And Dave, anything to add from the USA in terms of what's happening for career coaches specifically?
I would say not in particular. Only I would say certainly directionally, what Ishmael's saying I think is certainly well reflected here as well, and has been for some time. There's been, I think, as most of us on the call are certainly acutely aware, there's been a very strong consolidation in kind of the career management world, if you want to call it that, specifically outplacement. All three major firms that we all are familiar with from the past, I think, have all been sold and bought by somebody else at some point. And I can't remember the names at the moment. I don't hear their names a great deal as well. So I think a lot of the folks who were associated, particularly with larger firms, in trying to adapt to this environment where outplacement in particular has become a commodity and very, very price driven, that they have tried to reinvent themselves, many of them as coaches, and a very difficult way to try to make a living. There are some who do, I think, fairly well, but a lot of folks don't. Plus, there's been over the last several years, and again, I doubt this comes as a surprise to anybody on this call, a proliferation of kind of pay us some money and we'll certify you as a coach kind of a firm, where some of the qualitative side of that is probably suspect in many areas, but they're all over the place. So so that's why I would say directionally, at least in terms of what I see and hear from folks, it's not terribly dissimilar, unfortunately, to what Ishmael has described.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much for that update. It's interesting to see the commonalities appearing in certain things around the globe. I just want to give everyone an opportunity. Whether you've all, thank you very much, given updates from your parts of the world. Does anyone have any questions for anyone else about anything that's going on for them? Oh. Okay, no, I'll take that as a no, but Claire's offered to answer questions offline, and I'm sure the rest of you will be as well.
Maybe I have one question to ask. There's this question number 4. What strategies are career coaches using to compete in today's marketplace? Has any of the participants seen anything new or successful that he could say is a strategy or any tips?
I would say that a number of the folks that I know here and the coaches and so forth and consultants are doing the same thing that they suggest to their clients who are looking to make a change do, and that is to become active participants in forums and places where potential clients can gather, particularly online. And becoming real contributors in that environment, not just hangers-on, so that they can begin to build an identity and a brand when it comes to trying to contribute to those kinds of discussions, whether they're online or off. But with the technology being what it is, it's very easy to do it online. It is not so easy to become well-known enough so that that people start to recognize your contributions. So it's got to be very consistent.
I have seen the same thing here. One of my ex-clients, he sent me the information about a HR forum where questions like, can anybody recommend an outplacement consultant, and similar questions were raised, and people got a lot of open information from a lot of people I know, but some of them, 2 of them recommended our company, and a lot of the others didn't. So
yeah.
I really
good for you. That's good for you.
I realized that there's a lot to do.
just tell us how you did that.
I can share this. I just thought of it as Hans was talking. Something that I started to do a couple of years ago in our organization is we constructed 2 levels of membership. We used to only have one, which was a paid membership. We for the last few years have had 2, so that you can come in here for free. And we share a lot of content and information that we think is valuable, and as we watch the membership grow, people seem to agree that it is. But one of the things that we've done, and I think could be done anywhere, not necessarily through your own organization, but by volunteering to groups where there would be of interest. I do a phone call, a call-in thing using this particular platform, the Citrix platform, that is open to anyone, whether they're a paid member here or a free member or anybody else for that matter, because we publicize it on several social media sites as something that's there if you're interested. And people can call in, and I usually have one other person on the call with me who's a career coach or someone who certainly can contribute to it, and they can, and the audience can ask questions on anything they want that is relative to whatever is going on in their for them from a career perspective, whether they're making a change, interested in making a change, how do they look for a job if they're working, anything they want, and those programs are pretty well attended, and looking at, and so it's a way of getting yourself out there, and people talk to other people about it. It's particularly true because, again, in the outplacement world, because of the size of the groups and the price-driven points and so forth, I think people who are in the job market in particular aren't getting as much of that kind of information as they have in the past. Anyway, it's worked for us.
Cool. Thank you for that, Dave. I'm sure that's useful for a lot of us. I just want to go to Claire, and I've got a couple of points that I want to add to the discussion as well. But Claire, is there anything you wanted to add into that as well from the CDI perspective?
We found that we've got a number of communities of interest for different groups of practitioners, and they've been particularly popular, where people can sort of ask questions, talk to each other online, etc. We've got one of those specifically for private practitioners and career coaches, so that's always useful to know. And plus the popularity of LinkedIn, people running courses on LinkedIn and how to sort of use your brand and develop that to produce your LinkedIn profile. So certainly there is that much more increased use of technology than there was, say, even 5 years ago, let alone longer than that. So yes, it certainly made the world shrink as the use of technology, but for the better, I think.
Sure. Thanks for that, Claire. Yeah, and that's that the communities of interest that Claire mentioned. There is a conversation going on there within the private practice community here in the UK to actually put some webinars together to share best practice and perhaps share some of the questions that were raised here. How do we publicize ourselves? And from a personal point of view, in my own practice, this kind of links to what Dave was suggesting there, but you getting savvy with the social media, not on anything in depth. I wouldn't claim to be an expert, but just being present there regularly and putting little blogs out to a Facebook community and regularly tweeting. I tweet probably 3 times a day on careers, and it's something that you don't have to sort of spend your whole life on. There are platforms such as Hootsuite, and there are others which allow you to schedule messages to go out. So I can spend an hour once a month scheduling a raft of messages to go out, and it's just about keeping a presence there, I think. And also, I think, as Dave suggested and Claire suggested, and perhaps the others, just thinking, where is the audience hanging out? And perhaps LinkedIn is a good place to be contributing to groups. And I like the suggestion, I forget who it was from, for the HR forums on LinkedIn, are perhaps where career coaches could contribute quite a lot and keep the profile of the profession up. Not sure what are other people's thoughts on that.
Well, I certainly think, one of the things that has worked well for us, and we have a very, very large group on LinkedIn, but in terms of using that as a platform, by contributing content, and that's particularly true for anybody who's doing webinars or things like that, and inviting people in those groups to attend at no charge. We've had a number of programs that we don't offer them all the time, but they're there, and we've had as high as a couple of thousand people sign up for these things. And if the program is at a qualitative level that people find interesting, they will tend to talk to others about it, not necessarily, whether it's through Twitter or Facebook or just in roaming around. So I think it's about the quality of the content that's being offered to be shared, and these are not selling occasions at all. They are strictly information giving. And hopefully the people walk away from that experience saying that was there was value there for me.
Do you have any metrics that show you whether people are converting from attending the information sessions into clients for your business?
Well, we certainly have metrics that show us whether people convert from being someone who is just coming there and then decides to become a basic member, for example. We certainly know that, and once they become a basic member and they get exposure to other things that are offered specifically on the website, because remember, when we do the webinars, this isn't coming from our website. This is coming through the same platform that we're using today.
Yes.
But they can then, they certainly know how to get to us, and when they experience it on the website, and obviously we then get to talk to them, and we do a lot of messaging. We send a newsletter out every week and offer other programs in between, and hopefully they then say, yeah, this is something that interests me enough to do more with it. And you know, I guess the only metric I have is has the audience grown, and the answer is yes, it definitely has grown. There's no two ways about it.
Great stuff. Thank you, Dave. Anything else that anyone wants to share or ask of other people on the call tonight or today, where you are?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. Well, I just firstly, just one other thing that I want to mention. The ICCI Board of Governors had its annual retreat in Singapore at the beginning of this month, and I just wanted to make you aware of that. I was hoping that Jutta would be able to be on the call today. She's traveling in Vietnam at the moment, and it's about 1 o'clock in the morning there, so unfortunately she hasn't made it onto the call. But what I rather than me sharing little bits and pieces and snippets, what I'll do is I'll get the full report of what happened and the way that ICCI sees the way forward as an organisation, and certainly that will be talking about developing in the Asian area and in Eastern Europe as an organisation in terms of certifying, as well as other methods. But what I'll do is I'll get that report out to all of you once that's ready, and let you have any information on that. But please do keep us updated with how ICCI can work better for people in your region. And I think it's, you know, from an ICCI point of view, it's important that we're engaging and forming the strategic alliances that we've got with CDI, because I think together we're stronger. And it seems from the messages that you've all given tonight, and I know it's the case here in the UK, it really is important for us to raise our profile and be seen as a proper profession by the marketplace, because we provide so much value in enabling people to be successful in whatever it is that they do. So with that, if anyone's got anything else they'd like to add to the call before we finish, put your hand up or shout out now, otherwise I'm going to close. Okay. I've not heard any shout outs or whatever, so I'm going to say thank you ever so much for taking time out of your day or your evening to be with us here tonight and to join in the discussion. Do keep me in touch with any questions you have about ICCI or how we can help. And we'll look forward to speaking again, if not before, in 6 months' time in November. And it'll probably be the first or third week of November, because here in the UK we have the CDI's annual conference on the 9th and 10th of November. And I'm sure, Claire, that anyone from ICCI will be welcome to come along and join in that conference.
Definitely. And yes, it's in Cardiff in Wales on the 9th and 10th of November. And so the details of that aren't quite yet on our website because we're still planning the programme, but once the programme's planned, then everything will be there, including all the booking arrangements. So it'll be great to see people there. Because we always like having an international dimension at our conferences. It always enriches our thinking, and Jutta did a keynote speech last year at the conference in Edinburgh, in Glasgow, that was really well received. So yes, so do please come along to the conference. That would be great.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much, everybody, and finally, thank you to Lauren for setting up the call and recording it.
Same to you. Hope to see you again. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Good night, everybody.
Bye bye.